was growing up, I heard stories from the elders on the island about the German subs that would be just off the island during World War II because they were either going to get sunk or maybe because they wanted to really defect to America. Supposedly, many of these men jumped ship and came in the middle of the night to the island. Many believe that's why we have so many German last names and descendants living on the island. My grandfather came before the war started, but he took my mom back in 1938 to see family, not realizing that they would get stuck and have to escape through Italy in 1939. So I wanted to highlight this war because we always hear about the Revolutionary War sites. I think that because it was fought in Europe and the Pacific arena, we don't really think that we have heritage sites in New Jersey. There is a story to be told of our ghostly site hidden in plain sight in New Jersey. So, on this episode of Surely a Mystery, I wanted to highlight our World War II remnants, many of which are paranormally charged. Welcome to this episode on World War II remnants that are left scattered all over New Jersey. Some are in the form of museums, some naval battleships, and still others are actually brick and mortar, which still stand today. All of these people can visit and learn about the part that New Jerseyans played in the war. I think the people sometimes forget that many served in World War II. 560,501 was the total of those, and 10,372 of those died. Specifically, 77 New Jerseyans died in the sinking of HMT Rona, which had been on a classified mission. For nearly 50 years, their relatives had no idea of how or even where those men really died. Some of the total deaths were from accidents, injuries that proved fatal, and simple illness. That is why today, when you enter the military, you get a whole battery of shots, and even more when they deploy you to certain places. Now, in the beauty of Cape May, there are two sites for people to see. An enormous bunker, Battery 223, is located right near Cape May Point State Park. It was one of three structures which were created in 1942 and finished in June 1943. Originally, the site was a U.S. Coast Guard post during the First World War. It had 6-foot thick concrete walls so that if it were attacked by air or sea, it just might survive. There were even rapid fire guns that could strike anything that was about 9 to 12 miles from the coastline. In total, this concrete bunker has 20 rooms and even protected those inside from chemical attacks. Some will report thinking that they see people in and around the site. It could just be people actually exploring it, but then they report that the people look like men from a bygone era or in a military uniform not used anymore. People on the beach at night, when they shouldn't be, will see what looks like lanterns or flashlights coming from inside the bunker, or dark figures that are walking into or out of it, but they're never fully formed, and there's no cars or anybody else around. Today, it stands out like a sore thumb, but its heyday, it was covered with sod so that it could blend in with its surroundings. But what else has changed? The tide has. So now seawater can invade the bunker, just like during the bomb cyclone Hernando, which we had, but it never had to fire a single shot other than test firings and military exercises. Stationary defenses are now thought of as obsolete. So in 1947, it was deactivated, and all the coastal guns were gone by 1948. Now, that doesn't mean it wasn't used. During the Korean War, it was a radio transmitting station for the U.S. Navy around about 1958. So right now, next to people sunning on the beach and enjoying Cape May, this was an active military site. But there were indeed submarines around, literally 65 miles off the coast of LBI. German submarine U-869 was discovered actually in 1991. It made history because the US Navy thought it had sunk off the coast of Morocco. So, were all these stories about German men swimming ashore true? According to the divers, the crew actually died within the vessel. Unfortunately, because of where it is located, even professional divers have difficulty exploring the wreck. In fact, 3 divers have died so far trying to do so. Submarines did travel along our coasts in World War II. They even sunk ships off our coast. If you were on Sea Isle in 1942, you would have seen the sinking of a Standard Oil tanker named R.P. Rezer. U-578 torpedoed it on February 28th, which happens to be my wedding anniversary. But it didn't sink right away. The Navy actually had to tow it 30 miles east of Barnegat Lighthouse, and that's actually where it lies today. So it did happen. According to unclassified records, there were over a dozen ships that were sunk off our coast. World War I was a bit more active with subs and subs that attacked ocean liners. They even kidnapped their crew and passengers. That's really a whole other episode. Also in Cape May is the World War II Lookout Tower, which is literally a concrete observation tower. Its official name is Fire Control Tower Number 23. Built in 1942, the tower was one of 15 towers that helped aim batteries of coastal artillery stretching from North Wildwood, New Jersey to Bethany Beach in Delaware. 4 were in the Cape May County area. The towers located in North Wildwood and Wildwood Crest were torn down, and a third tower is still located near the Grand Hotel at Beach and Philadelphia Avenues. It is now a museum and located near Sunset Beach. So if you're feeling athletic, you can climb it and see what those soldiers actually saw during World War II. Some visitors say that they feel like something breezed past them as they try and climb the stairs. Others feel like they can hear conversations, things in the past. But most of the reports are of phantom lights on or near the tower. Police are often called to cruise by just in case kids have broken in, but they don't find anything until they look in their rearview mirrors. It's too high to be kids and too quick and faint to be any modern lights. There are several museums also with a rich history around New Jersey. We have the Battleship New Jersey located in Camden, the USS Ling submarine in Hackensack. We have the Millville Army Airfield Museum. Let's talk about the most haunted one first, the Battleship New Jersey. In 2022, Ghost Hunters team visited the ship for an episode titled Ship of Lost Souls. They focused on the engine room and the brig. Even Haunted Rooms America did an episode because the ship frequently hosts overnight paranormal investigations where guests can access restricted areas. The cost is usually around about $159 or so. Well, how did it get haunted? Well, here's a bit of its history. The ship itself was in service from 1942 to 2001. It served as flagship for the 3rd and 5th Fleets, participating in major Pacific operations, including the Marshall Islands, Marinara Islands, Philippines, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. She supported carrier raids and engaged in surface combat, earning the nickname Black Dragon. She also served in the Korean War, then the Vietnam War, and even in the Cold War in Lebanon. I'm going to say that most of the Cold War activity and possible deaths will still be classified. USS New Jersey, known as BB-62, had only one crew member killed in action during its entire combat career. Seaman Robert Herman Osterwind was killed by shrapnel from a North Korean shore battery on May 21, 1951, during the Korean War. While only one died in combat, reports indicated that about roughly 21 known deaths occurred throughout the ship's service history, including non-combat related incidents. There were many soldiers wounded who might have gone on to field hospitals and died later, but only those two were killed on the boat during combat. The interesting thing is how many sailors were killed by accident or the negligence of other crew members. Now, there were many pilots who were killed while on mission, but not on the ship itself. Here are the most famous of the ghosts. The mysterious Seaman Fox is the first. He fits into the accidental, maybe murder category. Legends suggest that a sailor named Fox was found in the ship's dumbwaiter. Many rumors had surfaced that he pushed and fell to his death. Sorry, there's no NCIS back then to try and figure it all out. Investigators have reported activity in the engine rooms, often described as phantom sailors still working at their posts. That makes perfect sense, since some of the deaths were located there due to overheating or other mechanical problems. Now, full-bodied apparitions are often reported along Broadway. This is literally the top deck where many sailors probably spent their time to get away from the confinements of the lower decks. Also, many were there waiting to leave. It would be the last place that the deceased pilots were walking around before they took off to their deaths. Visitors will experience cold spots, hearing disembodied voices, and witnessing phantom figures. The voices range from distant conversations to frantic mumblings like people who are stressed and trying to get their work done. I'm going to say that many of those are just historical energy replaying. Cold spots might be more of an interactive type of spirits. Remember, they need the energy, the kinetic energy. It's the energy of motion and movement, like your heart beating, your legs moving, your lungs sucking in the air. They need it so they can interact with you. So you begin to feel cold or tired. These are the best areas on the ship to try and use a REM pod, or maybe to get an EVP. The phantom figures are a bit of a catch-22. One type could be just that you're seeing things being replayed over and over. Or it could be a ghost truly trying to get your attention, or see if you in fact are real. Think of it as an intersection. They pass through the intersection and see you coming. So they pass through it again, hoping to, quote unquote, run into you or get your attention. Unlike the battleship New Jersey, the USS Ling submarine's future remains uncertain, as it is currently stuck in the mud of the Hackensack River and is largely considered a forlorn relic. Following the closure of the New Jersey Naval Museum in 2016, the Ling was left abandoned and became a ghost, literally, of its former self, with overgrown, neglected, and inaccessible grounds. But that didn't stop a female ghost hunter and parapsychologist who was charged with vandalizing the submarine instead of just trespassing. In 2018, the submarine was severely vandalized, with hackers being able to open hatches, causing the vessel to take on water and sink. Now, many previous caretakers have denied that the ship was ever haunted. However, locals will say that they hear strange things from the Ling, noises that don't fit the normal sounds of the area. Some say that they can see lights that float around it, which could just be fireflies. but others think that it might be the souls of the lost sailors or sailors who felt safe there and wanted to return to it. Just to be clear, it actually saw no combat action, at least unclassified, and no recorded deaths or severe accidents on board. Until it is pulled from the mud or someone can actually investigate the submarine, I'm going to leave this as a maybe. That's the problem with ghost hunting. Sometimes people just ignore or try to find reasonable reasons for things that they see. I'm not saying that everything has to be haunted, but every place really does have residual energy. Even if it is only the energy of maybe one event or one person, memories are emotional, and mental hauntings you could have of people and places. You remember what happened someplace, good or bad, and that gives that place an energy. I think that if enough people have a particular feeling about a place, then chances are there's some imprint on that particular place. For example, Auschwitz concentration camp has not just the energy of those who were there on both sides, but then every visitor who has gone to the camp and paid their respects have left their own energy as well. Many talk about the coldness, sadness, their stomachs feeling empty or nausea. Some of this could be mental. We know what happened there, so we quote unquote feel it or express it through our bodies. We react to it, but some of it could be that energy linked with the imprint of those who really were there. They didn't eat, they were starved. So we feel that starvation. Think of historic or old places that you've been to. Have you ever felt anything that you couldn't really explain rationally? Like you got to a restaurant and you were starved, but then you sit down and suddenly you can't eat and aren't really hungry? What's the history of the place? Who had been there before you? World War II is part of our history in New Jersey. It is important as our own Revolutionary War story and continued our belief in representative democracy and freedom of thoughts and religions. In New Jersey, we are a melting pot which gets new ingredients over the years and stirred and mixed. Places like Perth Amboy was once Polish and German, but now it's Puerto Rican or Dominican. We need to remember, and just maybe, we might even truly see or experience firsthand the energies of that lost era in our history. We might see something, hear something, or feel something that makes us shiver. If you do, let me know. Let us all know. Well, this has been Surely a Mystery, recorded on Long Beach Island, New Jersey, by your living host, Anna. Until the next time, search the past to find your way in this future, and don't be doomed to repeat the heartaches of our past.